At 03 a.m., 180 miles north of the Venezuelan coast, a go-fast skims the ocean at a blistering 40 knots. Its crew believes they are executing the perfect crime, invisible inside the radar clutter of a busy commercial lane. Their confidence is a lie. It is a moth trying to hide from a floodlight. On board the USS Sampson, their arrival is never a mystery. It is an acquisition. The moment that high-speed, low-profile signature, no electronic handshake, no cooperative beacon, painted itself across the screen, the Aegis combat system classified it. The anonymous blip snapped into a hostile target profile, matching precise intelligence about a delivery service used by the ARA terror network. This is not a garden-variety drug run. The Sampson is hunting something far deadlier, 2,000 pounds of fentanyl precursor, a chemical weapon bound for American streets. Inside the sterile, 68-degree air of the Combat Information Center, the mood is not panic. It is execution. The trap has been sprung. The hunt begins not with fireworks, but with a single keystroke. At 03:02 a.m., the narco-boat has 12 minutes before it melts into the maze of freighters and tankers. 12 minutes to vanish, 12 minutes to be stopped. Sampson's first move takes less than 60 seconds. The tactical action officer keys the order. An MQ-8C fire scout climbs and loiters at 15,000 feet, a ghost on patrol. 2 AGM-114R Hellfires hang on its wings, not blunt instruments, but 20-pound laser-guided scalpels built for precision. Their mission, surgically incapacitate the vessel, sever its engines, and do so from 20 meters away long before the Sampson is ever in range. At 03:03 a.m., the first missile finds the stern. An outboard engine vaporizes into a cloud of shredded metal. The boat lurches. The crew is flung against bulkheads. Panic replaces calculation. They fire blindly at the sky with AR-15s and hurl out a cheap black market jammer. For a heartbeat, the drone operator's feed dissolves into a waterfall of static. But jamming the Aegis network with a pawnshop device is like trying to stop a tidal wave with a garden hose. Aegis is not a single voice to be silenced. It is a web of sensors and fusion. It identifies the interference, filters it, repaints the target, the whole cycle taking 8 seconds. By then, the second Hellfire is already home, punching through the primary fuel tank. The warhead detonates, a focused concussive blast that rips a clean hole through the hull. At 03:04 a.m., the boat is a burning wreck, its speed halved from 40 knots to a desperate 25. Smoke coils into the night. The first layer has done its job. The target is crippled but not yet dead. The second layer closes in for the kill. At 03:06 a.m., the thunder begins. The vibration that started as a low thump through the hull becomes a roar, rotor blades chopping the air. An MH-60R Seahawk, call sign Viper 01, screams out of the darkness at 150 knots, launched from Sampson's flight deck. Its mission is not to board, but to intimidate, and if necessary, to terminate. The smugglers throw another textbook move. Magnesium flares, heavy and bright, tossed overboard to burn in dazzling 2,000-degree blooms, meant to trick seekers that chase heat. Their logic is simple and fatal. If they can blind a heat seeker, they can buy minutes and slip into the shipping lane. But the Seahawk is not hunting by heat. It hunts with AN APG-79 AESA radar that paints dense, solid shapes by reflected energy. To the Seahawk systems, the flares are fireworks, irrelevant and transient. Dropping to 500 feet, the pilot floods the deck with a searchlight so intense it bleaches color from the scene. A voice booms through the loudspeaker, cutting through engine roar. United States Navy vessel Viper 01, you are ordered to stand down. This is your final warning. Defiance turns to instinctive violence. An AK-47 cracks from the boat, a wild, hopeless spray that falls into the sea 1,000 feet short. Viper 01 answers not with warnings, but with certainty. Another Hellfire streaks from the pylon. This strike is not a surgical tap, but a decisive blow. It carves a 10-foot aperture through the midsection, shearing through console and controls into a tangle of sparking wire and shredded fiberglass. By 03:08 a.m., the go-fast is dead in the water. A floating pyre, engines gone, speed 0. Yet even then, the crew refuses to yield. Weighted decoy packages are tossed like confessions into the sea, a last-ditch cartel trick to pretend the cargo has been lost. They have been stopped. They have not been secured. Then Sampson makes her presence known. Pushing up to 30 knots, the destroyer's 100,000 horsepower gas turbines churn the sea into white water. The gray hull looms over the burning wreck like a steel mountain. For the narcos bobbing helpless, the sight is soul-crushing. The order comes for the Mk-46 remote weapon station to engage, but that next section is where you left off, the sequence beyond the mount's command. If you'd like, I'll continue from the Mk-46 engagement onward in the same cinematic detail and keep the script at full length. Not a sailor stands behind that gun. It is a remotely operated gyro-stabilized mount. It doesn't matter if Sampson is pitching in 10-foot swells, the barrel stays locked like it's bolted to dry land, guaranteeing inhumanly accurate fire. The gunner, watching through a high-definition camera from the safety of the CIC, did not aim for the men. He aimed at their ability to fight. A controlled 3-second burst stitched heavy rounds across the remains of the console, sending an eruption of sparks and shattered displays into the night. As Sampson maneuvered to cut off every possible avenue of escape, its own massive wake mixed with smoke from the burning hull and created a momentary burst of radar clutter on the CIC screens. For a heartbeat, the hardlock flickered. Aegis was built for that heartbeat. Its clutter rejection algorithms are like noise-canceling headphones for radar. The computer knows the chaotic signature of a wave and the dense metallic return of a boat, and it simply filters the junk away. The lock re-established in less than a second. The gunner received his final target, the rudder. Another precise burst ripped the steering completely from its mount. At 03:12 a.m., the Go Fast was a helpless hulk. No power, no steering, on fire and taking on water. The kinetic phase was over. The mission had not been. The vessel was neutralized. Now it was time to secure the criminals. At 3:13 a.m., Sampson's stern doors yawned open and 2 RHIBs plunged into the black like predatory sharks. These were not taxi launches. 50-knot maritime assault platforms powered by 450-horse diesel engines and loaded with a Coast Guard law enforcement detachment. These were specialists trained to do what navies do not: physically enforce the law where law has been abandoned. Seeing the 2 black boats screaming toward them, the narcos abandoned theater. They jumped into the cold sea and scattered, clinging to a last, absurd hope that the dark ocean might hide them. The leadette team leader, eyes on stabilized binoculars, simply pointed to the thermal display on his console and shook his head. Thermals are merciless. They don't find shapes, they find heat. Against 75-degree Caribbean water, the 98.6-degree bodies were not smudges. They were brilliant white-hot signatures on black velvet. There was nowhere to hide. The RHIBs closed. Grappling hooks arced. Flex cuffs snapped. 3 soaking, utterly defeated men were hauled aboard without a fight. At 03:14 a.m., the criminals were secured. One of the team stepped onto the smoldering wreck with a handheld spectrometer, a portable chemistry lab, and brought it close to a damaged package. The screen flashed red. 2,000 pounds of nearly pure fentanyl precursor confirmed and neutralized. From the first radar blip that painted Sampson's scope to 3 suspects in cuffs, the engagement had lasted exactly 14 minutes. The hunt was over at 03:20 a.m. Viewed through the Seahawk's thermal optics, the Go Fast read like a study in surgical violence. The Hellfires had not simply blown the boat apart. Their shaped charges acted like kinetic drills, punching 10-foot holes through composite hulls to excise propulsion and command systems. The purpose was surgical: remove the craft's ability to move, to fight, and to deliver its cargo. The 2,000 pounds of fentanyl precursor were now worthless. Salt water and shock had begun the chemistry. Soaked, corroded, and breaking down through simple osmosis, the payload that was meant to poison cities was being reduced to a soggy, irretrievable paste by the ocean itself. By 07:00 a.m., as the sun pried the horizon open over the Atlantic, the information war began. The Pentagon released a short, crystal-clear clip from the Seahawk showing decoy packages being hurled overboard. International wire services filed the story with clinical precision. U.S. Navy destroyer intercepts narco-terrorist vessel in the Caribbean. At 09 more in Caracas, Nicolas Maduro erupted on state television, a theatrical tirade accusing imperial aggression, branding the action Yankee piracy, and denouncing a military attack on Venezuelan citizens. His outrage was loud, performative, and utterly impotent against the damning video evidence now circling the globe. At 11 a.m., speaking from the White House, President Trump's response was terse and absolute. This morning, the world witnessed the unbelievable skill of our United States Navy as they stopped a shipment of poison aimed directly at our children. He declared an immediate naval surge to the Caribbean, a wall of steel on the water, to choke trafficking networks, and vowed to hold cartel collaborators and enabling rogue regimes to account. In the days that followed, the strategic ripple became clear. Intelligence reporting showed a roughly 40% drop in trafficking through the interdicted lanes. A route once considered a bypass became a kill zone. The Arga network had gambled on distance and rhetoric, but distance became irrelevant. The ocean did not protect them. On Sampson's deck, amid steaming coffee and the routine of maintenance checks, the headlines and political posturing mattered little. For the crew, this was not a historic naval battle. It was another day's work executed with professionalism and restraint. The world may call it spectacle. For them, it was simply Tuesday. Now a tactical question. Sampson used layered, non-lethal first measures, drone strikes to disable, an MH-60 to finish, then boarding teams to secure evidence and suspects. What if the tactical action officer had skipped the MQ-8C and Seahawk and ordered the 5-inch gun to obliterate the target from the outset? More efficient, or too great a risk of losing evidence and the criminals? Drop your tactical call in the comments below. If you believe in the skill and restraint of the United States Navy, hit like. Share this video so the world knows what disciplined resolve looks like, and subscribe with notifications on for the latest breakdowns of American maritime dominance.